Okay, looking at the do now today, we have 3 divided by 8. That means the 3, if we're thinking about this long division, goes in the house. 3 divided by 8. 3 is 0.0. This goes in 3 times. Gives me 24. Subtraction gives me 6. This is going to go in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times is 56. With a 4 on the subtraction, bring down another 0, is going to give me 5. Again, decimal is going to pop straight up here, right above the decimal place. It's going to give me 0.375. Answer choice C. Looking at this one, 5 divided by 6, so that's 5 divided by 6. I'm going to need my decimal place. It's going to jump straight up there. 6 goes into 58 times. That's going to be 48. 2 is bring down the 0. And that's going to go in 3 times is 18. It's going to be a 0. And it looks like we're going to have this repeating pattern of 8, 3. And so just remember that when we are doing this, we're putting our repeating symbol only over the part that's repeating. So it's only the 3 that's repeating, not the 8 and the 3. And that's going to give me 0.83 repeating. Alright, let's flip on over and write down our aim for today. Alright, today's aim today, Kipsters will be able to convert fractions to decimals with long division and identify whether a fraction will repeat or terminate as a decimal. So we actually have 2 aims today. We're going to be focusing on that first part first, thinking about repeating and terminating decimals. Hopefully these are terms that you should already know. So coming down here, we're going to look down at this, and we're going to use the calculators that are in front of you today to go ahead and find each of these values. So go ahead and find the value as a decimal for each of these fractions. Go ahead and pause the video until you have that done. Okay, at this point, this is what you should have found with your calculator. We recognize that there are terminating and repeating decimals amongst this set. And we're going to see if there's any way to determine whether or not a number is going to terminate or repeat as a decimal before we even start dividing. Alright, so let's go ahead and split this into groups. We'll have our terminating on the left and our repeating on the right. Go ahead and categorize every one of the fractions above, so you're going to be putting the fractions above in the categories beneath. Go ahead and write them down just like this. So go ahead and finish that up, and we'll check back in. Go ahead and pause the video. Alright, so your chart should look like this, and the questions at the beneath are going to help us figure this out. It says, what are the common factors for the denominators here on the terminating side? So if we start breaking these down into the factors, this is going to be 2 times 2. This is going to be 2 times 2 times 2. This one's going to be 2 times 5. So we should be able to recognize here amongst all of these, oops, somehow I missed 1/5 in here. 1/5 is equal to 0.2. We see that there are only 2 factors that are represented here. Only 2 factors. The 2 factors are 2 and 5. And if we come over and look at the other side, none of these numbers have factors of 2 and 5. Do any of these have the same common denominators as the other side? No. Okay, so none of these have 2 or 5. Alright, so what that actually tells us is we can go ahead and postulate that whenever we have a number, if the denominator has a factor of 2 or has a factor of 5, that means that it is going to be terminating. If it does not have a factor of 2 or 5, then it will be repeating. Alright, let's go ahead and use long division to find the decimal value for -3/4. Now, one thing I notice immediately, this is -3/4, which definitely means that when we start thinking about our answer, we we know this answer is going to be negative or positive. Hopefully you've identified for yourself already that we know this answer is going to be negative. So now we can take the 3 divided by the 4. Top dog goes in the house here. This is going to go in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. This gives me 28. 2 is 0. This is going to go in 5 times. So this is 0.75. But remembering down here, already in our answer, you've noticed I've put the negative. This is negative 0.75 because we have a negative divided by a positive, which is a negative answer. Looking through this, use long division. Again, just the work here. 1 divided by 3. This goes in 3 times, gives me 9. We can already see that we're going to get a repeating pattern here. So when we write our answer, we need to make sure that we're using correct repeating decimal notation. 0.3 repeating. Alright, Eric and 4 of his friends are taking a trip across New York State. They want to split the cost evenly. If the total cost of the tolls is $8, how much will each person have to pay? So we're taking the $8, we're splitting it amongst 5 people. And that's going to give me 8 divided by 5. So this one's going to be a whole number part. Here is 1. Everybody will pay at least $1. And it looks like this is going to go in 6 times. So everybody will pay $1.60. Alright, so this is just the last piece. Coming back over here to what we thought about earlier, what did we say determines whether a decimal representation of the quotient of 2 integers will be with the divisor not equal to 0? So just quick here. How do we determine whether a decimal representation will terminate or repeat? Alright, so looking back over here, once again, we see the only ones that we have here that terminate have only factors of 2 and 5. Okay, so coming back over here, our rule, our understanding, it will terminate if the denominator only has factors of 2 and 5. So that's what we're looking for. We know it's going to terminate if it only has factors of 2 and 5. So that's like 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 will give me 64. That number is going to give us a repeating decimal. Alright, let's move on to our partner workspace. Okay, in our partner workspace, you're just charged with identifying and finding the correct decimal representation for each of these numbers. You should be able to identify immediately whether or not it is terminating or repeating. So for the first one, I recognize that it has a denominator of 8. That's 2 times 2 times 2. So I know immediately that this one's going to terminate. So for each of these, determine whether it's going to terminate or repeat, and then go ahead and do the work to find out what it would be as a decimal. Pause the video and come back when you're done. Go ahead and take a quick check at the answers here. A couple things to notice here. Negative 0.83 repeating. Or 0.8, sorry, this should not be 0.83 repeating. It should be 0.825, 0.875. A little ahead of myself. Negative 0.875, again, focus on the negative here. For this one, we see this should be a negative 0.4. This one repeats. This one we know 1/7 is going to repeat eventually, so we get 0.142857, all of it repeating. And then coming over here, we have -1/11. Repeating decimal again, looking that it's negative. Again, a negative divided by a positive gives me a negative answer. That's -0.83 repeating. And the last one here on the bottom, he now only has 3 people splitting up the cost, so that's 8 divided by 3 should give us 2.6 repeating. Alright, go ahead and flip on over to your alone time and move on.